What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We're off to a hot start at the box office. Critics are loving this movie. Seems to be doing well in fan circles. We're going to talk about it here. We're going to go spoiler free for the first few minutes, and then we're going to do a deep dive on every little detail in the movie. We got to see it a week ago tonight, actually. So we've let it stew for a little bit, kind of fleshed out some of our feelings, I'm sure, on it. And regardless of where you land on the spectrum, for sure, it was an emotional ride. So I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, as always, Mr. Baba Yaga, John Fick. How you doing, Johnny?
I am doing great, man. Excited to talk about this movie.
It was so great seeing this movie and seeing the trailer for John Wick 4 because I could finally turn to John and go, Baba Yaga,
Yeah.
Baba Yaga.
It was good.
Finally did it, folks. So, Wakanda Forever. First, I want to right off the bat say about an hour ago, numbers were updated, at least from what I saw online, and $400 million globally this has crossed. It's a pretty good
Wow.
start.
That's not a bad start. This was going to be the first billion-dollar movie since, do you know what, Joe?
First $1 billion movie.
For Disney, which might be just overall in general, but first billion for Disney since.
What timeline? Right? Was it Rise of Skywalker?
You got it. You nailed it. That was it.
Okay.
That was the
What
last
was right before
billion
everything
dollar
went to hell?
movie. Yeah.
Got it. So, yeah, man, this I think has the legs to do it. We're only a weekend, so we'll see what happens. But hey, a weekend, $400 million. Now, on our show, the MCU Reviewed, we always like to get into the nitty gritty when it comes to box office numbers, see how it did at the end of its run, so to speak. So, inevitably, down the line, when we talk about this on MCU Reviewed, we'll get into that and see where it did land. But a really good start. People are liking this movie. A lot of pressure to get this one right and a lot of expectation. Again, we'll stay spoiler free for just a few moments here. But John, your overall thoughts on Wakanda Forever?
Man, Wakanda Forever. It is a beautiful, emotional movie. I enjoyed it so much. I thought it was awesome. Really well done. I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie. Once we get past the spoiler-free stuff, we'll talk about maybe some of the stuff that didn't hit for me. But overall, man, like if I could sum it up, it's like it's the first time in Phase 4 since No Way Home, which is almost like a cheat code because that movie was so much fun. But it's the first time in a while that I've wanted to go back and rewatch an MCU movie immediately. Like we rolled credits, we talked about it. The next day, I'm like, man, I wish I could just go grab another ticket. I wish I could go watch it again today. It was a lot of fun. 2 hours and 40 minutes in it, like it just didn't feel like it. Obviously, it was a long movie, but it was paced well, and it was just like, man, I couldn't get enough.
I've long said, especially when it comes to Star Wars movies or Avengers, anything MCU, actually any movie in general, I don't care what the length of the movie is. If it's well written, well executed, and well paced, it could be 5 hours for all I care. Because if it's good, it's going to get the job done. On the flip side, you don't have to extend movies if they don't need to. So I really thought, going into this, when I saw that it was 2 hours 40 minutes, that might be a struggle. I was like, oh gosh, that just sounds like a lot for a kind of singular hero, if you will, the Black Panther, as an entity movie. But I was wrong. And this was great. It flew by, felt much closer to 2 hours. And that I think is a testament to the movie. But man, Ryan Coogler came back to write and direct this movie and they nailed it. The ensemble cast was amazing. Obviously, really, really tough to do what they did, seeing that unfortunately Chadwick Boseman passed away a few years ago. And man, that sucks. It's just for a number of reasons. Selfishly, as a fan, it felt like they were just starting to hit their stride. Black Panther was on top of the world, and I was so excited to see where Chadwick was going to take that character. But that being said, for who was in this movie, thought it was absolutely well done, well acted, well written. Just about, it was solid all around. Like you said, not a perfect movie, and I think we've got some maybe similar gripes that we'll get into.
Yeah, I mean, just the ensemble cast. So everybody did such a good job. It was some of the best performances and some of the best direction in the MCU. I think this might be the best looking and the most well shot movie in the MCU. And I don't even know if it's close at this point. Like they're like almost every scene in this movie is a painting. Like, it is framed so well. The music is so well. It's scored so perfectly. The music's awesome in such a different way than the first Black Panther. Like, it is scored so well and like so appropriately for what the movie is. Whereas the first Black Panther had its, it had a very like rap hip hop centric soundtrack, which was done by Kendrick Lamar and was also incredible in its own way. They stepped it up again for this one, and like I said, in a different way. Just so much about the movie fit so well. And again, like, we're gonna get into the emotional stuff. They handled it so well. They did a great job for us as the fans and for the cast. I can't imagine how emotional some of that stuff must have been for the cast going through, losing such a close friend, obviously, and then making some of the scenes that they did, because it's it gets there, it goes there.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And the way that Chadwick's absence was handled is second to none in any similar casting where you have a prominent character that has passed away in the middle of a movie franchise. And they just, we're going to get into it in a moment here. They did it so well. I think this is the first movie, maybe going back to Spider-Man, that I cared about these characters this much.
Right.
And that is saying a lot because I love Thor. Oh my gosh, I love Thor, especially since Ragnarok and Infinity War and Endgame, all that good stuff. Say what you will about Love and Thunder. Uh, Gotten to really enjoy Doctor Strange in different capacities as well. And then we've gotten a lot of Disney Plus series, but nothing has gotten to this level like Wakanda Forever for me. And if I'm thinking just Phase 4 rankings, we got a lot of Phase 4 content here. I think it's largely been hit or miss for me. I can find my way to liking almost all of it, but Spider-Man is the top, and then you got Wakanda Forever second, and then we get into the other stuff. But again, just so well executed.
Yeah, it's worth noting this is the last entry in Phase 4. This is the last thing we're gonna get. Next thing is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and that is the start of Phase 5. So we both have plenty of thoughts on Phase 4. We've chatted about it. I'm sure we'll do some kind of show about it where we talk more about that. But obviously, we're going to focus on Wakanda Forever here. But yeah, it's a good time to be an MCU fan. I think we're turning the corner here.
We do have one more bit of content on the small screen.
Oh
For
yeah,
Phase 4. We got the Guardians Christmas special, which I keep
so
forgetting
excited
about.
for. I'm so excited for that.
I'm ridiculously excited, man. I hope that's great.
Dude, the
really
trailer, dude, just based on the trailer alone, they're going all out, and like that vibe is immaculate. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
What a great idea, having Drax and Mantis kind of be like it's primarily focused on their journey. Like, oh my God, who else would you want in like a funny little Christmas special?
Exactly, man. I think about like our first episode that we did, just the only episode so far, the Geekiverse podcast. And I talked about Halloween sitcoms in like single episodes that I liked. I'm almost getting a little bit of that vibe for Christmas with this, because like those two are a comedic pair. Like I mentioned Third Rock from the Sun, how they're so clueless and oblivious to kind of like the everyday norms on Earth. I feel like that's perfect with Drax and
Oh,
Mantis.
for sure, absolutely. And you got some of that in the trailer. You talk about like Christmas stuff that we love watching, that seasonal content. This is going to be in the rotation forever. Like, where this is going to be like Christmas staple content. I hope, and I can't imagine it isn't going to be.
It's gonna be right up there with Jingle All the Way for you, I think.
Oh my God, that's a tough one, but yeah, maybe.
Real quick in the chat, Hockey Man, our buddy Chris, he said he didn't come away from the movie with any complaints. He thought it was really well done. And then Courtney said Chadwick's absence making me cry all over again. Past that, I think this is a good point. We're gonna flip the script, get into spoiler territory. So if you have not seen the movie, if you care about spoilers, hit pause, bookmark this episode, come back to it. Hopefully, you're with us live on the chat at twitch.tv/thegeekiverse. You can watch the episode at youtube.com/thegeekiverse or listen on podcast services wherever you download podcasts. So let's start right here, John.
Oh my
Hockey Man
God.
again in the chat. The absolute silence of the theater for both the beginning and the end of the movie.
That Marvel crawl was just it just bone chilling. Like, I have never experienced anything like that. So I'm sure if you're listening at this point, you saw the movie, and I assume in theaters, because unless you pirated it. They start the movie with the MCU crawl, and it is just absolutely silent. And our theater was perfect. There was nobody did anything. Nobody moved a muscle. And I literally got chills. I felt a cold front come across the air when that happened. It was unlike anything else.
Derek Kramer sitting next to me, Chris sitting on the other side of him. We were joking that they they both stopped chewing. Like, it was that much where if you were literally eating popcorn or anything, you would have heard it.
Yeah.
And the cliche is always that you would have heard a pin drop, but that was ringing through my head as we're watching this because you would have heard it. I'm not
Yes.
exaggerating. I have chills talking about
Like
this right now.
nobody was even shuffling in their seats, which you can hear that like during the movie when music is playing and stuff like that. You can hear people moving around. Nobody was breathing. Like this was I can hear my heart beating in my ears, and it felt like it was forever. And you're just watching all of those clips of Chadwick, and it's just so emotional. Like the first scene of the movie is Shuri trying to come up with a reproduction of the heart-shaped herb to save T'Challa from what we have been described as an illness. That didn't get me. Like it was emotional. I'm like, oh my god, like what an intense way to start this movie. But like I didn't start tearing up yet. That was it was impactful, but it didn't get me. The second the splash screen happens, and the second I realize it's going to be silent, gone, dude. Like absolutely could not see anything. Like straight up crying.
Yeah, it was really intense for sure. Dude, you're right that no one even was shuffling because you can imagine in the theater that is Regal with those chairs. If anyone adjusted their foot rest, it would
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it would have been so
Oh my
horrible.
god, it would have sucked. But like again, that's what a perfect theater experience. You'll never be able to replicate that at home. Like again, it's gonna be fun to rewatch that and to remember the experience we had in the theater. And it's a beautiful tribute to Chadwick. Regardless, there's so you see all the cool stuff he's done and the purple tint that they had behind it. Like oh my god, it was so good.
Dude, and let's talk about that for a minute. I know we've talked about it a bunch on these reviews, but that is what makes these experiences so special for me. I think for you and just about anyone who kind of joins that crew. But we had almost an entire row. We had, I believe, at least 10, if not 11 of us sitting there. We got our tickets 2 months ago or a month whenever they went on sale, as we often do. And it's you and your wife, your father-in-law, my dad's there, my sister, brother-in-law. We got Derek. Unfortunately, Tim wasn't able to make it. Our good buddy Chris, Trevor was able to make it, which was really exciting. And that's so much fun. It's fun meeting there, getting snacks in the lobby, kind of wind it up to go in. Um, and then you find your seat, and I feel like just the buzz gets there, and it just makes it so much more fun. And on the flip side, we leave, we talk about it for a minute or two in the parking lot, and then we go our separate ways. And I'll never forget any of that. I think that's so special.
It's awesome. It's so cool. Yeah, we almost had that whole row sold out, but we did have JT was there with his buddies. Like we knew that he was going to be there, so that was like what 3 or 4 more people. And then my good friend Aaron showed up with 2 of his buddies. I'm like, wow, like there's so many. Like it's crazy when you just run into people at the same theater, but like it's such a cool experience. There's nothing like it, man.
We had most of the theater. We really did because there's not that many seats now with the recliner. So yeah,
We had
really
at
good
least like
stuff.
20% of the theater, and it was sold out, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, easily. So in terms of the movie, you mentioned obviously the montage there in the beginning, very similar, but different to what they did with Stan Lee in the first movie after his passing, which you kind of knew that was coming, but to actually see it on screen is where I think it hit everybody. But past that, I'm like, all right, I have no idea where we're going with the story. I had no expectations. I was excited because this is a Black Panther movie, but I just had no idea. This is the most Marvel or the most I would say I ever stayed away from a Marvel movie prior to it coming out.
Yeah,
Like I stayed away from spoilers for the last 2 Avengers movies like it was my job. But I watched those trailers constantly that they released for those films. This one, I watched the trailer once and that was it. And I went in as blind as could be, really. And I'm happy I did. I don't think that there had to be this huge build up and all this stuff out there to gear up for it because the numbers are kind of speaking for themselves right now, right? This is a good movie based on the box office. People are probably seeing this numerous times. You and I said we wanted to go back and see it again. Like, I don't know that I'll get back to the theater. I'd like to, but after seeing Doctor Strange and after seeing Love and Thunder, I was not necessarily in a rush to get back and see those again. I was like, you know what? I'm good to wait for Disney Plus for a month and a half. This is a different case.
different case, 100%. There's so much I want to rewatch, and like there's so many more details I want to pay attention to and conversations that like I want to revisit. Like it was a dense movie, like very dialogue dense movie. Like a lot of really good character writing. A lot of this movie was in subtitles, which I always appreciate because I think it's easy for like I don't know for movies just to not do that because it's the easy thing to do. Where like it would it would make more sense to be speaking in a different language in certain scenes, and they just don't do it because it's easy. There's a lot of subtitles in this movie. I thought that was like something I want to revisit and make sure I'm getting the most of those conversations. Like yeah, it was awesome, and I can't wait to see it again.
I think much like the first one, it balanced impactful story, well written dialogue, and action. And of course, it looks gorgeous. But right away, if I'm thinking about two people who stole the show here, if we're not including just the presence and underlying theme of Chadwick Boseman here, you got to look at Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda and Letitia Wright as Shuri. I
Dude,
love Letitia Wright in this role, man. She absolutely took things to a new level. I think they both did. But ultimately, this ends up being kind of almost Shuri's movie. But my
yeah.
gosh, let's talk about them for a bit.
It's for sure Shuri's movie. I mean, you can even boil it down to the fact that she's the title character. She is the Black Panther, right? And it was heading
Yep.
that direction throughout the movie, and it ultimately does. I'll go to Angela Bassett for a second. Man, the commanding performance from her. Like I am hopeful and expecting that she gets an Oscar nomination for this for Best Supporting Actress. Like that was it was that good, and it would be fitting because Black Panther, the first film, was the first and only MCU movie to get any Oscar nom for Best Picture back when it came
Yeah.
out. So that'd be pretty incredible. But she plays this mother who's lost it all. She's angry, but she's still so on top of it. She's still running the ship, and she still knows what she's doing. And she's just got I don't know, man. She's just a beast in like the best way. But she's hurting, and it's very very clear. She's the mama bear, but like just an absolutely commanding performance. Like stole the show for me for sure. I completely agree. Letitia Wright as Shuri is also incredible, but man, I can't stop thinking about Angela Bassett and how commanding she was.
If there's one word I would describe aside from Queen from Angela's performance, it would be presence. Because anytime she was on screen, she commanded that. Um, I, she always played this role nice, but this was really more at the forefront. If I think about one really impactful moment, it is when she basically fires Okoye. That is brutal,
That's
man.
a tough
Like
one, man.
that is really bad. They've always, from our time in the MCU, Okoye's been the protector of the throne, very close with that family.
Yeah, and
And
it's
when things go sideways and Shuri goes missing, like she blames Okoye. And I don't blame Ramonda because, dude, you've lost everything. And now
that
you have one child who's left and she's gone. I
dude.
can't say I wouldn't do the same thing.
100%. It's like it does the perfect thing in the movie. It's like the best kind of writing possible. It's you agree, but you don't want to. It's like you not only do you see both sides, but you just don't even want this conflict to exist. You don't want to make a decision about this. Like it makes so much sense. We love Okoye. Like we have grown to love Okoye. She is the protector. She's the warrior of Wakanda. But she really screwed that up, man. Like she had one job. She was the one who convinced I can't think of Angela Bassett's name. What's the character's name?
Uh,
Ramonda.
Ramonda.
Yeah, she's the one who convinced Queen Ramonda to let Shuri go with them, right? And she dropped the ball and she got her kidnapped. Like you got to put yourself in her shoes and be like, yeah, that's probably the right call as a leader at this point. Like Wakanda is fractured. It is exposed right now after before a couple of things that we just saw before in the movie. Like you got to assert the dominance and make some decisions. But man, that hurt to see.
It really did, and Denai Guerrera's role as Okoye there was really, really impactful too. I've always loved her in that role. Back to the first Black Panther movie, of course, her time in Infinity War and the bit we see in Endgame. Like she strikes the right balance of again a different kind of commanding presence, but she's also got a little spunk and she's got that
The
comedic
comedic,
flair to
yeah,
her.
for sure.
Like one of the best moments is in Infinity War. Uh, when Scarlet Witch shows up and she basically goes, "Why wasn't she here all along?" Like
Yeah.
that's hysterical.
Yep.
So she's always found that really nice balance. But yeah, what was really good about this movie, I think, with this ensemble cast, it's okay to introduce new characters, but in this one they really didn't. They really doubled down on existing characters or characters that we had already met in terms of antagonists or protagonists. I'm sorry, in the MCU. So we got a lot of people returning from that first movie that we already grew attachment to. So when we got him here, it was to another level. It's like how I like in a Star Wars movie or a trilogy. You know, you start to grow that interest and that connection with them in the first one, and then the second one, you cannot wait to see where they develop.
Yeah.
And that was a lot here.
Yeah, and especially like in ways that we never expected these characters to develop, in ways that they probably were never meant to develop, right? Like this was never supposed to be what the second movie was about. We were not supposed to get a Shuri that was vengeful and spiteful and was kind of just fueled by revenge. That was probably never supposed to be the Shuri we were supposed to see in the second movie in the Black Panther trilogy or franchise, whatever you call it. But that's what we got, and they crushed it. You talk about returning characters. How about new characters, man? Namor, dude. Talk about a villain that I knew nothing about and was skeptical on just based on premise alone. Like, okay, this is like Avatar. These people live underwater. Like, I don't really know what to think about this. Like, especially, I thought it would really conflict with like the tone of the movie. Like, getting such an out there villain and somebody new, taking the time to introduce them. I thought it would really conflict with like how meaningful the tribute and the situation with Chadwick was. But no, I couldn't have been more wrong. I thought Tenoch Huerta did like an incredible job and maybe one of my favorite MCU villains at this point.
Yeah, I agree, man. I was very skeptical, and only because, like you said, I joked about it after we saw the movie because I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, we just saw
Avatar.
a lot of Avatar here and Aquaman with all the underwater stuff. Like it was silly, but um, his story is really good. So
Super
they
interesting.
tell you again, right? Why should we care about this villain and what he's doing? I don't know. Let's say this movie came out 10 years ago. I don't think this character is developed that way because the MCU always had the villain problem, right? What since Thanos, they've really done a good job of getting behind the why. Why do they do what they do? Even if it's wrong, you can sympathize or you can understand at least. And I feel like this was really well done. Not only that, but Namor was very intense anytime he was on screen.
Oh yeah.
And the the whole attack on Wakanda and then basically saying, "I'm coming back in a week. You're the queen now." Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh.
this was a warning. The queen is dead. This is your job now. Make your mind up. Oh man, like I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that attack on Wakanda to be so devastating.
Me neither. And at that point I was like, "Okay, whatever. This is a run of the mill superhero battle." But let's talk about that with Queen Ramonda dying there. I did not think that was going to happen.
Me
I
either.
thought, "Hey, we'll play it out like she's going to die and in a minute she'll take a breath."
Right.
Yeah, we didn't get that,
Same
and
here.
what a move that was. Now
Yeah.
there was an interview in the past week that had released that Angela Bassett did not agree with this, and she didn't want this to happen, but Ryan Coogler kinda insisted on why he thought it was the right direction in terms of emotional weight, and I think he was right, from my perspective, because when someone dies in a superhero movie, Star Wars movie, sci-fi, etcetera, there's always that, oh, okay, we'll see him in a few episodes, we'll see him in a movie, we'll see him 10 minutes down the road, right? No, like she's gone. And to have permadeath is a really rare thing and such a meaningful one at that.
Yeah. It was so perfect for this movie, and it was so necessary for Shuri's story arc, for her character arc. Like she was vengeful, she was mad about her brother, but she was maybe starting to show some signs of moving on, right? She was getting back in the lab. She's got this new relationship with Ironheart, I forgot what her name is, but we'll talk about her a little bit. She's getting back to the way things are, but then all of a sudden she loses the last person she has left, her mother, and then all of a sudden it's just right back to rage, and she's on that path again. So like that was, and at the very end it comes full circle where she gets the words from her mom, and show them who you are, whatever the exact quote was. So I think that was super necessary, and something that was I didn't expect either. I would have never guessed that.
And talking about rage, how about someone who kind of pushed her there a little bit in Michael B. Jordan coming back as
Oh,
Killmonger?
talk about things I didn't expect. I would have never guessed in a million years we'd see a Killmonger appearance here, man. How
Mhm.
cool was that, dude? Like it
What
fits
a
so
what a
well.
twist.
Yeah, in this
Like
in this
that was a big twist for me. I obviously the death of Ramonda was big, but I love so much that she goes to connect. She creates what she couldn't create at the beginning of the movie, right?
heart-shaped
I don't
herb.
even know. Yeah, the heart shader herb, and she goes to meet the ancestors, and who does she connect with? It's not her mom. I legitimately did not see that coming
No, dude.
whatsoever.
Killmonger, like what? Oh man, once we got the music cue, I'm like, oh man, it's him. And you start to see the over the shoulder, the bumps a little bit. I'm like, oh, that was like the, that was the Spider-Man moment where everyone popped in the movie theater for sure.
That pan around to the essentially the throne there reminded me so much of in the first movie when he takes the throne and the camera goes upside down
One of the
slowly.
coolest
I
shots.
love
One of the coolest shots.
so his performance there, he had to make it count. It was only a few minutes, but I love how he talks about her dad and that he wasn't really who everyone thought he was, and that her brother was too noble. And he said, I want to say he asked her, "Are you going to be like him, or are you going to be like me and get things done?"
Yeah.
And what a beautiful thing because she started to take that to heart a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the last third of the movie, she's taking that to heart and she's acting on that. Even as Black Panther, she's never really in the right headspace as Black Panther until the very, very end. Until there's finally that breakthrough. It's all rage. It's all vengeance, man.
And then to go just a few steps backward, you had mentioned someone she connected with, and we got Dominique Thorne as Ironheart, and that's a very nice way to introduce that character because Ironheart's going to be seemingly relatively prominent in the MCU moving forward, going to be on Disney Plus, all that good stuff. But to get that here and how that executed was really nice, I thought. And Dominique had a really nice performance and swagger to her.
I so I agree with the performance. I agree with the swagger. I don't think it was a well done introduction to the character. I don't know. She kind of felt like America Chavez in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness to me. Like she's this person that she's a plot device, right? We're given this plot device. Same thing, literally the same thing with America Chavez. Like she has this power. They're after her for this reason. This is the way we introduce this character, but never really felt fleshed out to me. I just felt like it was a little quick. I never really had a connection with the character, and I thought that the suit was kind of dumb. Like I thought that her whole kind of shtick was a little dumb. Like it was a little underdeveloped. Some of the stuff with the chase in when they're was it Boston where they found her? Yeah, 'cause it was MIT, right? So when they're in Boston, some of the chase stuff was cool, but like that was probably anything this movie has to do with the U.S. and like in that storyline is my least favorite part about this movie. Whether it's there when they're getting with Ironheart for the first time, or whether it's when they cut back to Agent Ross, that story thread at all. That's where the movie could just like have, not that it needed to, could have cut 30 minutes off for sure, for me at least.
See, I like the suit. None of this was make or break for me.
I would have liked,
I won't.
especially with the suit, I would have liked more of the I'm a Tony Stark enthusiast. Like I'm inspired by Tony Stark. Like she ends up being Ironheart. She has an Iron Man suit. She's a tinkerer. She's inspired by Tony Stark. I would have liked more of that backstory. I would have liked to have gone to her dorm room and seen like a Tony Stark statue, like poster or something like that. That would have done a little bit more for her backstory for me. That's.
I can see what you're saying there, and I could also appreciate if we were to get, let's say, the Disney Plus series on her first before this movie, because when she shows up here, you know how it is when we see recognizable characters, we're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, like that. So I could see that would have been cool, but I was fine with how it was executed too. So um, who else did I want to mention here? Oh, okay. Lupita Nyong'o is Nakia.
Oh my god. I
Totally forgot about her until she
Oh
showed up.
my! Like one of you talk about like a presence on screen. Like I thought that in the first movie she was good. I thought Nakia was a fun character. Like I never really had too much to say about her. I thought you talk about that ensemble cast. She just adds to it. She's just one of the highlights of this movie for me.
Same here. I loved her presence throughout. Probably the second half of the movie. It felt like,
Yeah,
uh, and what she's doing and her story on why she kind of needed to go away,
yeah.
even though
We
we found out that wasn't true until the very end.
Yeah, let's talk
Uh,
about that, man. We're in spoilers. Like I think that's the second biggest bit of information other than Shuri's the new Black Panther for now because T'Challa and Nakia had a baby, and that little baby is T'Challa Jr. and that's where they've been hanging out. That's
so
amazing.
the ending of the movie, we get Shuri kind of doing the ritual, the which is they've passed a year of grieving, so they burn their funeral attire, and I love that. I love that she can do this now, and Nakia is a part of it. And then we go a little further and we see the boy come out, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me
I
right
know,
now."
dude.
I wasn't in the headspace to be ready for that, and what a casting, by the way.
Yeah, the
Like,
it's just an adorable little Chadwick, right? Like he looks so similar. I don't know. I don't know if they like taught the kid the mannerisms, like the eye movements and stuff, but he crushed it. He was awesome.
the way he makes fun of Shuri right off the bat is beautiful, and she sees it too and laughs at it. But when he says that his name is T'Challa, son of T'Challa,
What
oh man.
what an awesome way to answer the question that a lot of people had, and maybe even just the complaint that a lot of people had when Chadwick passed away. Disney came out and said that we're not recasting Black Panther. We're going to end his storyline, and we're going to tell the story that way. A lot of people were mad. People were like, well, I mean, this T'Challa has a lot to do with the Marvel world. Like T'Challa should be around. What a brilliant way to bring it back. Give us T'Challa Jr.
Yeah, unbelievable, man. That's the moment of the movie for me when that happens and when he says who he is. Just absolutely beautiful. We I love when they say I am so and so, son of so and so in any of these movies, and there's a lot of callbacks in those details to the foundation that was 2018's Black Panther. Just absolutely bonkers. And as we talked about earlier, it was quiet to start the movie, and it was very quiet to end the movie, and that's what we got.
Yep, those moments of silence, man. It just they hit so hard.
Now, in terms of stuff, maybe we didn't like so much. Uh, Execution and maybe visuals of the enemy here. I'm thinking is maybe a path we're going to go down. But John, what maybe didn't work in this movie?
I kind of talked about mine. I didn't really mind too much about the enemies. I thought it was weird and a little bit jarring at first. I thought the outfits for the Dora Milaje that they end up wearing at the end where they start flying around. I thought that was terrible. I thought those were abysmal. I don't know if they were supposed to be. I don't know if we're supposed to hate those, but I didn't like those. Wasn't bothered too much by the design of the enemies. For me, it was mostly the U.S. stuff. It was the ties to Agent Ross, and we didn't talk about it yet, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character shows up, and you can tell she's on her war path to do whatever she's doing, whatever agency she's heading up right now. But I just didn't care about that. You could have cut all of that for me. You could have just talked about the U.S. and their involvement with the vibranium off screen, and I would have been way happier with it. That's kind of it for me, honestly.
I agree with the Agent Ross stuff. I did not care whatsoever, and you truly could have cut it, and I would not have noticed a difference at all.
Right.
Um, I was
CIA.
hit or
Okay.
miss
Yeah.
on some of. We joked that they're the fish people. Like to me, that was so meh, but it didn't deter a lot for me. And what was nice was some of the time Shuri spent underwater, kind of seeing their city. I actually thought it looked pretty good. Like I think about like what's a comparable for this, right? Like Aquaman comes to mind, and kind of hit or miss, different style for sure. Uh, I enjoyed this a little bit more. Granted, it is the MCU,
I
and it
thought they
is
did a
Black
better job
Panther.
of the location of underwater than Aquaman did. I thought they crushed it. I thought the aesthetic was cool. I thought the movement was cool. Like I thought everything was really, I don't know, I thought that was all well done. I understand the design of the people is a little off-putting, but that kind of works for me for some reason. At first I was like, this might distract me from like how profound this movie kind of is so far, but quickly I didn't find it to be a bother.
Yeah, I could usually ignore that stuff even if I don't like it, I think, and that's where I was with this. But small gripe, really, to say the least. Past that, I don't know, John. Like, what else is there to talk about with this movie? Are we missing anything?
I'm sure we're missing something, man. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and there's a lot to it. But we loved it. That those are obviously our thoughts on it, man. Like I think I'm gonna try to get out to see this again. I don't know when I'm leaving my house. I don't have a snowblower, and it's supposed to snow a lot, so I might be stuck here till next time we chat about an MCU movie. So we'll see.
That is maybe Ant-Man. It's gonna be crazy. I Winston Duke is M'Baku.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
just
awesome. I have a
He's one of my
specific
favorites.
I have a specific thought about that.
Okay.
So Winston Duke, awesome throughout the movie. Like really almost takes like this big brother presence. Like he's been always very like the brute, but we've seen him we've seen him be a bit more reasonable in more recent appearances, like our end games and stuff like that. Even at the end of the first Black Panther, he obviously comes around and helps out Nakia and Ramonda and everybody like that. But so specifically at the end, when Shuri's supposed to be coming out at the at Warrior Falls, and he comes out instead and says, "I challenge Black Panther." What what's the deal there? Was there like an off-screen conversation that Shuri's saying like, "I don't want this," or was that a joke? I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about that.
I think you're spot on in not knowing how to feel about it, but to me, I took it as a joke because I thought their relationship, as you mentioned, was almost like Big Brother, and it didn't quite obviously get there enough. But that's what I took it as. I
Yeah,
felt like him being
because
like, "Oh, she's not here. Where could she be?" kind of thing. Like
she really
I don't
bounced
know,
out. Like it's not like she just wasn't there. She's she's down in
right?
Haiti, right? Like she went to Haiti to see Nakia and to do that ritual with her. So I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that. I would love to see more thoughts on that and maybe some more evidence, details, stuff like that. I still when I first saw it, the first way I processed that was like, huh, she's given the kingdom to M'Baku, I guess. Like that's how I thought of it. And then the more I kind of think about it, I'm like, or was it a joke? I don't know.
Right, right. I don't know. We'll have to find out. And honestly, I would love to get a Black Panther 3 at some point. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, like it always felt like in this movie, Shuri never really was the Black Panther. Like she figured out how to get the heart shaped herb, and she obviously took it and got to the ancestral plane. It's not like she saw the right ancestor. She saw a vengeful cousin of hers. It just kind of always feels like a stopgap to me. Like I don't know if we're gonna see a future with Shuri as Black Panther / Queen. It doesn't feel like her character. It almost felt like she just needed to get the job done. She was the person for it. I wonder if they go M'Baku for the time being until little T'Challa can be big T'Challa again. I don't know.
How cool would that be? Like then in this trilogy, if you will, you get three different Black Panthers. I think that would
Yeah,
be really really cool.
right, right.
Uh,
That would be awesome
I think I'm with you there. I don't know if Letitia Wright, wants to do this forever or even move past. I mean, it was only 4 years in between these movies for what it's worth, so it's not like it was a huge time. It felt like a long
It
time.
wasn't even supposed to be that long, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot going on. Obviously, pandemic. Shuri got injured at one point. There was a delay. Letitia, I should say. Also, by the way, of course, Chadwick's death really had to change what the direction was going to look like. So this movie could have been a mess, dude. Absolutely could have been a mess.
It could
And
have
trying to
been, but it was never going to be. They would have never let that happen. With all the factors you just mentioned, anybody else, any other studio, yes, this movie could have been a mess. It never would have been a mess with the MCU.
I mean, I would hope not. But on the flip side, I think about how other deaths were handled, like in Star Wars with Carrie Fisher, for example. I wouldn't say it was bad, but like Rise of Skywalker almost looks like a joke next to this,
For sure,
right? Like
for sure.
that's not a fair thing because it's just not the same. But they had in their minds to keep on schedule with Star Wars. It's got to be every 2 years. It's got to be every 2 years. And I feel like in some cases that hindered it. Maybe not. Maybe it did. But here they took their time and they let this cook and they found the right way to go about it. Oh
I
my gosh, did they find the right way?
I'm so glad we got nothing. I'm so glad we did not get any lines of dialogue reused. We saw flashbacks. That's fine. There were flashbacks that were always flashbacks. It's not like they reused footage. Is I guess what I'm saying. We of course didn't get any kind of CG Chadwick. That would have been ridiculous. And we didn't get any kind of like reused footage. We didn't even get voiceover lines. Like I think this was the most respectful way to do it. Just to it's over. It's over, man.
But you also felt his presence throughout,
For sure.
right? Like that's a hard thing to make happen. So kudos to Ryan Coogler and the team there. One of my favorite Ryan Coogler stories, by the way, is that he was always a Marvel nerd or a comic book nerd. He was at the Iron Man opening night, much like you and I go to these. He went to that as a fan. He was in college to do this sort of thing, to be in movies and directing and all that stuff. And eventually he found his way, to Kevin Feige a few years later, really. I think that's just so amazing. It's almost like the Dave Filoni story with Star Wars,
Yeah.
with how he and George Lucas connected. Just such an awesome thing.
Great, man.
Um, any closing thoughts?
No, I got nothing, man. I think we went through it all. What a cool movie. What a emotional movie. What an impactful movie. Beautiful. Can't wait to see it again.
Makes me want to watch it again. Makes me want to go watch the first Black Panther after we're done recording tonight. Gotta
I've
say, I'm
I've watched it basically every night in some capacity since then. I've probably turned it on for like 20-minute chunks before bed or while I'm eating dinner. Black Panther has been on in this house since last Thursday.
Gotta love it, man. All right, we're if you're joining us live at twitch.tv/the Geekiverse live, we are gonna wrap this up. Stick around, we're gonna be talking Busy Sticks, which is our all video game talk show, in probably about 5-10 minutes or so. We're gonna get through some stuff there. We got the Game Awards predictions. We've got all the categories that have been announced for the nominees, so that's exciting. We're gonna talk a little bit about God of War impressions, and it's gonna be a good time. John, where can people find you on social media so we can wrap this episode up?
You
And what else you got going on at the Geekiverse?
can find me on social media at Disruptoid, chatting at this point. Sabres hockey's been a bummer a little bit, but there's definitely some silver lining there, but definitely more about MCU stuff, Star Wars stuff. Andor's been great. Speaking of Andor, where else can you find me? We do a show we called I blank on this name every time, and I made it. I literally made the name, and I blank on it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did make the name. Built on
Built
Hope.
on Hope.
Built on Hope. I told you I made the name. I just always think of
All right.
Andor. I just think of Andor. So yeah, we have a show called Built on Hope, which is our Andor reaction show. It started off weekly, but then we realized that this show probably is better for let's sit on 3 episodes or so. So after the finale, we will probably do our next episode of Built on Hope. But it's been a blast. I'm loving Andor. I did not watch today's episode yet. I'm excited to do so.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I think if it's anything like last week's, it certainly will be. You can find me on social media at I am Prosiah. I'm on all the things John mentioned there, but also we've got an exciting event coming up. Geeks Give Back, the 3rd annual version of this event. It is coming up December 3rd, so just over 2 weeks away. We're doing a 12-hour live stream. We're playing video games. We're doing some of our talk shows live. We'll have some special guests, maybe another music video. We'll see if my studio appointment keeps for the weekend with all the snow that's happening. So if you have not checked it out yet, I do have a drum music video up to Black Panther's "Pray for Me," which was from Kendrick Lamar on last movie's soundtrack. You can find that at youtube.com/the Geekiverse. For all things geek, for John, I'm Josiah. We will catch you all soon. See you on Busy Sticks.